Welcome to the Financing Simplified Podcast with Anthony Venuto. If you're looking for answers to your financial questions, let Anthony and his network of friends and associates answer regular questions that regular people have about their money. Thanks for tuning in. It's time to start simplifying your finances.
Welcome back to Financing Simplified Podcast. It is season 2, and we're excited to be bringing you new and exciting content in 2024. And today we're going to start things off with realtor, longtime realtor in the industry. And obviously, this is the biggest question that many people have on their mind. What's going to happen with real estate? But before we get into the nitty gritty, before we start talking about what's going to happen in 2024, I want to take the opportunity to hand the mic over to Sam. Sam, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into the industry? Share some insight on yourself.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Anthony, for having me on the podcast to begin with. So my little backstory started when I was 16. I became a partner with a family member in a used car dealership. So at 16, my uncle taught me a lot how to deal with people and situations. And so basically I became partners at 17, and I was in the car business for 10 years. And I saw that whenever I was dealing with clients, they would come back, bring their family, bring their friends, because they trusted me when it came to selling cars. And I don't know if you've been to a car dealership lately, but you know what it's like when you got to sit down with these individuals. It's not the most pleasant experience. So I was just myself, and my goal was always to treat people the way I wanted to be treated. If I walked in to, whether it was buying car, shoes, clothes, and the ultimate goal was real estate. So I had a really good relationship with people always. I never had to worry about like looking over my shoulder. I was never sleazy. I never, ripped off anybody. If you know me growing up, I'm a pretty straight up guy. So as I was in the business, people kept coming back and bringing me referrals, and I was doing more business, and their families, like I can tell their families really trusted me and appreciated it. So I started thinking, I want to sell the ultimate goal, right? So that's when I was like, we were always looking at properties when you're younger with friends and, doing investments. So I was thinking, you know what? Everybody try to talk me out of it anyways. It's hard. The first 5 years is tough, but, I just put my head down, studied, and here I am 15 years later. I've been with the same brokerage, Century 21 Fine Living, with broker of record David Vitti. I'm a broker as well, and it's been one hell of a ride. I can tell you that much. I love what I do, and now helping people with the ultimate ultimate goal to get into their dream home and have turn a dream into a reality
That's key.
Is key. And we work together to really facilitate the deal, and it's very key today to have a real estate agent and I think a mortgage broker that's really going to give you the service that you really need.
And a lawyer.
And a lawyer, yes, to close the deal. Because and I know the last 3 years, maybe the last 5 years have been...
We can stretch it out, even go 10.
Yeah, I mean,
you can go as long as you can look back as long as you want. Well, and it's funny you mentioned that, Sam. We were talking off camera before about that. Is a fun fact. I actually did car sales as well too for a short stint of my life, and I think it's sort of those things that help you get well rounded. Not because of the fact that people look at car salesmen in a certain light, which many do, yes. But I think it helps you to work with people, understand the human interaction, which I believe in this current day and age is obviously something that's lacking, where we're all behind our phones. We feel like we have to, if we're not on social media, we're not relevant. And I think we lose that social communication. But it's interesting that you said that, like with real estate, friends and family, like working how you built that business to get your clients into that dream home or their home, to get them into their first starter home and help them explain to them the journey.
Yes.
Right. And I think, like we were talking about, and we'll elaborate a little bit more on it, is, the importance of having, first-time home buyers. So I'm assuming that you work with a lot of first-time home buyers. We work with investors. natural progression. You work with investors age, they have kids. Now I feel like I'm dating myself, but it's like, I remember starting in this industry and now their kids are having kids and they're coming back saying, hey, you got to help my son, you got to help my daughter. And, you're trying to explain to them, a lot of kids, I don't want to say kids these days, but the younger generation, who are looking to get into the real estate market, they see what their parents have built. They've seen that they've had a good run. They blame the boomers, obviously, for the predicament that we're in right now. But you can't start at 100, right? No. You have to, start at the smaller property and work your way up the property ladder.
That's right. You got to crawl before you walk, right? So start somewhere, and that's why. And that's bang on what you say, because I always tell you meet with clients and they have a budget and they always want to try to maximize it. It's like, you know what? You got to really think about your finances. Don't maximize yourself. Start here, whether it's a condo, whether it's a town, start and then progress, right? Build that equity and move up slowly. It's not a race.
It's not a race. But and I get the biggest combat to that question. Like when you say to them, look, when you work with a client, like your role, we're advisors, we're psychiatrists, we're therapists,
psychologists.
We're everything to everyone in some shape, way, or form. Like a lot of our clients, they trust us. Like before they even make a financial decision, they'll call me up after a year. It's like, hey, should I buy a car? Like, what do my numbers look like? Will I be okay if I want to do this? So they put a lot of that fiduciary duty, trust into you, and you have to deliver on it. And this is what we always say to our clients, and we're sitting there talking about being open and honest with them. And as I said, we're not doing this as a pitch. It's not our pitch to our clients. It's more along the lines that we're talking about is getting into the market. If you stretch your budget, right, and you want to work towards that bigger home or that ultimate goal, whether it be buying a bigger house or starting your own business or, maybe buying a boat, whatever it is that, you want to do. If you're stretching that budget completely to the bitter end, how are you going to have money on the side to help fuel that goal, right? Because if anything, we'll say this when we're talking about it, real estate for the longest time, last 10 years, last 5 years, has done only one thing.
Yeah.
It's gone up. But now we're starting to see that, hey, all good things potentially could come to an end. And I guess this begs the question, and I'll throw it to you. I'll lob this one over to you. In an environment right now, and you can be honest, if you think about it, I see a lot of people on social media, a lot of realtors saying, oh, home prices, they're only going to go up. They're going to go up. They're going to go up. And like, that's probable. There's definitely, we have anecdotal evidence to show that. But as someone in the industry, do we want to see home prices go up to the point where only the rich can afford it? Like, are we promoting this to either scare people into buying a home, or are we talking about it to say, look, this is what we see happening. We want you to get in before the boom happens. Because I had this conversation with a friend of mine. I said, we want home prices to stay level, steady, stable, because this way people can get in. But if home prices go up, we already have an affordability crisis in Canada.
Yeah.
Rents, mortgages, interest rates. If home prices get more unattainable, or home prices can become even more unattainable, that's not a good thing.
No, I agree. I think so. We saw what it did the last 5 years, and now the last 2 years have been, people are changing, like you said, changing that mindset. It took a while, but everybody was saying, this is the doom and gloom of real estate. Prices are going to come down, the bubble's going to burst, and yeah, they came down. But I have clients ask me all the time, but they're like, when's the bubble going to burst? I'm like, look, I mean, the real estate market is resilient, but I think it's going to come down, and it has come down to make things a little bit more affordable. But my thought process behind it, and I can throw it back to you, is what happens when rates start to drop, right? So there's a lot of positivity in the market for 2024, which is fantastic. We love to see it, and I'm actually seeing a lot of properties that sat towards the end of 2023 now being sold conditional. So I feel like the positivity of what's being put out there, we know that plays a huge factor, because
absolutely,
so everybody's getting those positive vibes, and it's kind of giving a jump start to 2024. So I'm just curious to say, what do you think is going to happen, going forward? Because we want to see a stable, slow and steady. Like when I got into the business 15 years ago, that's the way it was. It was an increase of 6 to 10% every year, and and it was beautiful to work that way. Have a home inspection. Your buyers are not going crazy. You're not running out 3 hours after the property has been listed because if you don't get in there, it's going to be sold. People putting signs on their lawn for sale, and it's so, it's just pandemonium. And everybody thinks being a realtor, oh, you guys had it so good and it was amazing. You know, we, when we're representing our buyers, we're in the process with you. So just as much as you're feeling it, we're feeling it, because if you care about what you do for clients, it's personal to you. So you want to help your clients, but you don't want them to overpay. You want them to feel comfortable and be happy in this home, not be struggling once they get in there and being like, oh boy, I regret this decision. So for me, I'm looking forward to 2024, hoping that it's going to be a year of positivity, slow growth throughout the year, and we can get back to that stable market.
You touched on so many good points there, Sam, and I'm looking at it going, when I got into this industry, it's the same thing. We were not over bombarded. We had the time to really focus on those individual nuances, right? And when the market went haywire, you're dealing with so many different variables that we weren't used to. We had to sort of adapt to this new environment. And like you said, like when you're representing a buyer, you're on the front lines with them. Unless you had if you had a listing, gold, right? Gold. But when you're how many times buyers, how many tanks of gas, driving them around, looking at these properties. Like you said, I had clients like, we just saw this house go live, and it's like within an hour there was already a conditional offer.
Yeah.
And it's not right, it's not fair. And I think luckily and hopefully maybe in 2024 we're going to see some remediation when it comes to blind bidding and all this other stuff. But you're right, it's working with the client to give them the right advice, right? And when you think about 2024, there's so many different variables. And I think from our perspective, in my personal opinion, a lot of people waited. A lot of people were just sitting on the sidelines. And trust me when I say this, there's a lot of, we went from late 2021, early 2022 with like hundreds of pre-approvals, hundreds just waiting. They're like, okay, I'm just to zero, crickets, right? Yeah. And it's like, you can't, I believe you can't overnight just take that demand out of the market. That's just basically people sidelining themselves saying, hey, I'm going to wait this out. Then we had those little blips. You remember we had, was it prior to the Bank of Canada raising rates? We had, the Bank of Canada paused in early 2023. And then we saw some of the little amber started to light up again in the market.
February, March, and April.
Right.
Yeah.
And we know how rate sensitive people are to home prices are definitely related to obviously interest rates, right?
It's everything.
When home prices come up, it's usually because interest rates generally go down and vice versa. But we were talking about what's going to happen in 2024, right? Even if we see interest rates come down, I guess question number one is what rate is going to bring people to the market, but not the pandemonium? And we were mulling this over for God knows how long. But we think, rates are probably going to hover in and around the 4.5%. I don't see them breaking through to the threes anytime soon, but I think that's a normal market. I think that's going to bring in normalcy. I also think, when you think about housing right now, what type of housing is going to fetch the higher price? Like we were talking off camera, we were saying, hey, multi-million-dollar homes, like 2 million, 3 million, probably not that desirable because how many people can afford that? But all those homes that are within, let's say, 900 to mil 2, those are going to be the ones that are mostly sought after.
Oh yeah, they're going to fly off the shelf for sure because that's affordable living, right?
I see things getting more challenging as it's just a causality. When we have so much tension in the system, a lot of people talking about the banks. They're talking about how the banks, are having to put these provisions for credit losses. Basically, they have to put billions of dollars aside to cover themselves in the event of all these bad loans that could potentially happen. And they have to increase things like their domestic stability buffer. Anyway, boring stuff. But that just basically shows you when you have regulatory bodies like OSFI saying you need to come in and you need to address this concern because we need the banking system to stay regulated and healthy. And a lot of times, oh, this is going to be worse than 2008 in the U.S. And listen, I can't see that happening, right? When it comes to house prices, because we have too much regulation on our banking system. A lot of people talk about privates, they talk about equity lenders. That's a small percentage.
Yeah.
The big banks, unfortunately, in this country still dominate the mortgage marketplace. And as long as the banks stay liquid and they're lending, which they have been, a lot of people say, the banks. And I'm like, no, they've been lending. Like, they've just been changing, their criteria here and there. But for the most part, they have been lending. So as long as the banks lend, interest rates come down to somewhat reasonable amount where who deems what's affordable, right?
Yeah.
If you make $300,000-$400,000 a year, your meaning of affordable is different than someone who's making $150,000 a year.
Sure.
And that comes back down to that point that I have clients in that sweet spot, that $1 million mark. And they're like, should we buy it? I mean, it's got a finished basement. We can rent it out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what was that house priced at just in 2021? Like, ask your realtor, talk to them, say what would that house have sold for just a few short years ago?
Yeah.
And now you're going in at this price. It's like, do you see the value? It's detached. And I'm going to lob this question over to you. After all that, think about this. What we're looking in the housing market is different in the sense that detached homes are a luxury. Like, if you have a 2-car detached home,
anything in these last 2 years, there's an issue.
Yeah, there's a big problem.
There's a big problem. Like, if you haven't adjusted your spending, if you haven't, if you have an extra car and you don't need it, maybe you sell it, and if you haven't changed your mindset in the last couple of years, then you really got to think about that.
So let me jump in here and ask one very simple thing, and I'm going to kind of throw it your way, and then Sam, you can maybe piggyback off of it. Inflation, printing of money, interest, banks, a lot of the economists of what they're saying. How do you think everything is going to play out in 2024?
Well, with everything you're saying, as I said, the media right now has done a really good job at keeping everybody at a standstill to some degree. I think this is the key. And I always ask this question. If CBC News came out tomorrow and said, now's a good time to buy, what do you think would happen? Right? What do you think would happen? And when we look at economists, I always believe this. God gave us 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth. So you should always, the adage goes, listen twice as much as you speak. These guys, they come on the news, and we were talking about with Stefan off camera actually, was, they can look at data and they can manipulate it and torture that data to extrapolate those particular data points that may prove their case. It's no different than having an argument with a thesis. I don't know why I can't speak now. But basically, yes, some of them are right, some of them are wrong. And obviously they're forecasts. They're making a prediction based on certain data points, whether they be lagging data points or their future looking indicators. At the end of the day, I think we have to look at the economists and say, okay, they have some validity. Maybe they're right half of the time, or somewhere within that, whatever they're trying to convey is somewhere in the middle. That's sort of maybe what the truth could be. Because there's doomsday people that are out there saying, oh, the whole world is coming to it. Like, the amount,
For sure.
I see it. And the problem is fear sells. This is the problem. Fear sells. If you post a video where it's all about negativity, it's going to get thousands and thousands of views. If you come out and say, hey, something positive, no.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everybody on social media they're an expert.
Yeah.
Everybody's an expert. And I'm like, that's great. We're all opinionated experts. But what I think is going to really happen is people forget that we're human beings. Okay. Yeah. This is the reality. Most of my clients are not buying a house at this point. They're not selling their home on speculation, saying, hey, I'm going to go list my house right now just to see what I can get. Not the market for it.
Yeah.
People that are buying, it's like, I'm getting kicked out by my landlord, or I can no longer live in a 1-bedroom or a bachelor condo with 1 kid and a wife. So I need to figure something out.
Yeah,
right? I can't live in my parents' basement anymore. I need to make a move, whether it be rent or buy. So that will always happen. I think people forget that, it's transactions are still happening. They're not happening at the same scale. What do you think?
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think you're bang on. I mean, even the last 2 years, everybody was like, it's dead out there. It's there. I'm like, no, it's not that. The deals are happening, but they're not happening frequently the way they used to in 2020, 2021, 21, and 2022. It's just but those years were just
anomalies.
Like, craziness, right? Like, you're running around, you feel like, there's not enough hours in the day, and you're just running around and trying to go see this and that. And it's just craziness. So that wasn't stable. And I was telling clients from the beginning, I go, look, I mean, here are the comparables if you want to buy this, but this market right now, it's up to you. It's your decision, but this is not stable. Like this cannot continue happening. It's, I just want to, talk to your, your mortgage professional and have that discussion. But I'm letting you know that it's crazy right now. And if you want to get in, that's fine. It's fair. You got to do what you got to do. But just, like you said, like we've been riding the wave 20 years of it being so good that people didn't think about, what if, could this really happen? And then 4% increase in 1 year, like, so we hope that the last 2 years, we don't get ourselves in this mess again. So the government, during COVID, dropping rates, I'm like, and you were probably thinking the same thing. I'm thinking, I'm like, we're in a global pandemic, but rates are going down. People are paying astronomical. I'm like, how is this normal?
People were buying houses. They couldn't even go and see them.
Yeah. I'm telling you, property came available. I was on the internet like this, looking for clients. Because if I wasn't there, if I didn't see it the first hour, there was already an offer. And I mean, firm offers without even seeing the property. Forget condition. If you had a condition, they laugh and they put it in the shredder. What condition? Like
there was nothing. There was, and you. So you imagine now you're going through. So this is the conversation. Like so, Stefano talked about inflation. Yeah. First and foremost, before we get inflation, I believe is directly caused by the fact that our government spent more.
Yeah.
They printed money. Like it's clear. Like I said this back in 2020. As soon as I at 2020 in 2020, I'm thinking to myself, okay, look. Maybe I have to have a career change when the pandemic hit. I'm looking at it going like, this is like,
I think we all had that.
Like we all had that, like that little, shudder and think to yourself. And I turned to my wife and I said, look, there's two things that are going to happen right now. Either I got to find a new career path or buckle up because it's going to be the ride of your life. And we all know what happened then. Right.
Yeah.
But and it wasn't healthy even for us as in our personal lives because it was like my wife's like, do I need to go on your Calendly link and book an appointment with you to have dinner? Because we were just like on the phone, on the deal. As you said, clients are looking at you. They're saying, I have an insured deal. So for like those viewers, a mortgage insured deal where they're putting 20% down and they're trying to get their financing. Like already that's battle number one. Number two is, some of them are conventional. They're just on that tipping point and they want to go into a firm deal. And you're sitting there saying, you realize that one hiccup, the appraisal not coming in, because there's two markets. Remember, there's the market going up where appraisals they weren't, keeping pace, and then they catch up. And then there's the other side where the appraisals, people are buying still at those prices and they're coming down. So you're battling all these complications. Like I want to go firm. My realtor told me I need to go firm, and I'm like, you can go firm, at your own discretion. Yeah. It's on you. If you can't get financed, here's option A, option B.
It's not a comfortable situation for either of us because
right
as the agent, you're like, listen, there's 5 offers. If you go in conditional, you're not going to get it. So you need to talk to but they're spending like an astronomical amount of money and we're, it's like, it's just uncomfortable at times, right? Like, it's a decision you guys have to make. And you know what? I thank God everything that happened in the past, everything's played out. I haven't had any situations where people have lost homes or they bought a new development and all that. That's for another episode. But so I've been lucky, and I think I want to say I've been lucky is because I do my homework and I advise my clients. This is what it is. Like you need, like I'm gonna I'm not the guy who's gonna tell you what you want to hear. Like I'm gonna tell you the facts. I went to go see someone last week that wants to list a property, and I'm like, look, you were referred to me because, through a friend. I think it means a lot, but I'm not the guy who's going to tell you what you want to hear. And I said, whatever you think your house is worth, I'm sorry. I'm not, So I just think being straightforward with people, the referrals, people trust you, just treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. Plain and simple. That's what my dad taught me. I said to my dad, that was the best thing you could have ever told me when I was 10 years old. Was treat people the way you want to be treated.
if you don't in this industry, your career path is going to be very short.
Yeah.
It's going to be very short. And that's the one thing. We're doing this as a career. This is a vocation for us. Like I'm a certified teacher by trade. I went to school back in 2011, 2012, but I wanted to help people get into their first home. I remember the feeling of buying my first home and the questions, the nerves, the anxiety, the endless, thought process of am I doing the right thing? And to your point, it's very important to sit there and say, like this price on this house, you guys, we were talking about it, and I said, look, there's two approvals. There's the one that the bank's going to give you, because that's how the bank's going to approve your deal. They're going to look at this income. They're going to look at your gross income. And I go, it's fine. This probably squeezes through the door, but 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now, we don't know what's going to happen. So you want to buy at this price. Here's what your actual numbers look like with your take-home pay. A lot of people don't do this. They're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, we're qualifying you not on your, net income. We're qualifying you on your gross income.
Yeah.
So do your math. And to your point, like I haven't had any clients that said, like, we'll talk about pre-construction issues on another episode, but we don't have any clients right now that are at that point where they need to sell. Now, obviously, there's probably some people that do out there, but when you think about your finances, you have to always understand stretching yourself too thin doesn't leave any margin for error. Yeah. We're having this conversation with clients many, many, many months on end when interest rates were dropping, variable rate mortgages were prevalent. Huge uptick in the variable rate mortgages. And although they seemed optimal at the time, I always said, look, yeah, you're saving a little bit today, but don't look about the savings today. Think about long term, right? Think about how.
That's the problem. For some reason, you gotta it's like you gotta tap into that brain cell to get people to think. Don't think about today. Think about tomorrow. And also with people getting into the business, I'm sure you have, real estate agents, it's like, you're looking at everything wrong. You can't look at today. You have to look down the road. And to your point, you're probably saying it's safer to go with a fixed rate. So you know what your payment is the next 3, 5, whatever it is, years.
I've told clients straight to their face, I'm like, I would not put you in a variable product. I don't want to put you in a variable product because if things go one way, it's going to be better. But you have to have two cents in your brain to say, look, what goes up comes down, what goes down comes up. And it's like the conversation right now. So just a side note, you were saying about your dad teaching you those things. And my mom taught me one thing, and my mom's a principal broker as well, right? So we're a family business. It's my mother, my brother, myself. She never chased the dollars. Never chase the commission, because if you chase that commission, your view of the client is always going to be dollar signs. Not about what that client can do. It's like saying that client, you treat them right. Like to your point, they're going to refer people. Anthony's the best, or Sam's the best because he listens. Listening, key. When we think about what's happening right now, I think a lot of people, and there's good apples, there's bad actors and good actors in any industry. A lot of people just went into the industries thinking, hey, I'm going to make all this money, I'm going to make all this cash, and I'm going to be, well off. And it's like nobody realizes, like you said earlier on, car sales, real estate, changing that transition point, 5 years. You need 5 years, 5 to 6 years to build your root, your base, before you can even see any fruits of those labors.
I agree. It's funny because people get into the business, and I know a few agents, well, I'm not going to mention names, that they get into the business and they open up their own brokerages. But it's like, you don't know half of what you need to know, and you want to be, a principal, have your own, go for it. Like exactly what you said. You need, you need to crawl before you walk. You need that experience, right? And experience is everything.
How do you get the experience?
How do you get the experience? You work. You put in the time, right? You take care of your clients.
Each transaction, one by one.
One by one, And like you said, it's not about the dollars, because as soon as it's about the dollars, people today are too smart. They got the internet, this and that. Like, people see right through. So because I'm a broker I'll just keep this short, broker at my office, new agents that come in, they need the help, I'll sit down with them and kind of teach them the ropes. And it's just, the mindset is just about, they watch these shows or they follow these, and it's all, they're like robotic. And it's like, I don't know how to, because they don't know any different. They've never done sales. They don't know that it's a people business that people can see right through. Like, I've been in sales since I was 16. That's a long time. Like, I don't want to age myself. So, like, the experience that I have, even just talking to people, compared to somebody that just comes, like, you need to put in the legwork, man. It is what it is.
Remember when I got in this industry, like I said, I had worked for the bank prior to going back to school. And I thought, okay, I didn't want not that I didn't want anything to do with the business. I saw the hours that my mom was putting in, and I saw the headaches and the difficulties because, dealing with people, it's not easy.
No.
It takes a certain type of person, a certain patience level.
Patience.
To work with individuals. And, if you have that knack, then you can do it. But I remember shadowing my mom, just sitting there and listening and not, listen, I didn't get paid. My mom taught me bare bones, like this is like basically raw.
Yeah.
You want to do this? You got to build your own clients, because even if I said to you, here's a client, what is that client doesn't want to work with you. I've built that business.
Yeah.
It's like, I always say, it doesn't matter the backing, the brand behind you. People are not buying the brand behind you. Oh, no. Okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but most people don't say, oh, Anthony is with so-and-so, and that's why I want to work with him. They're saying Anthony's just great because it's personality. They're buying into you.
Yeah, of course.
Right? And I said to myself, as an industry person, I want the industry to excel. Like, at the end of the day, we all want, in the broker industry, we want to basically dominate market share, right? I feel we always do a better job than the bank. I worked in the bank, so I can tell you firsthand. The bank, it's just a revolving door. My salary comes in every 2 weeks. You are, blah, 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 blah. Some people obviously go above and beyond. Some don't. But I shadowed. I listened to what she had to say. I listened to the conversations. I watched her for full 2 years. Yeah. Full 2 years before I said, you know what, now I'm ready. That's the type of person I'm. I want to know what I'm talking about, because one mistake can lead somebody down the wrong path, and you can put them into a position that's life-altering.
Yeah, absolutely. I could not agree with this gentleman more.
I agree too.
We're cut from the same cloth, man.
But it's true. However, I will say, Ant, your industry is very niche still, because there really isn't that many mortgage brokers. In your industry, there is a plethora of them. And the problem is you'll get put into the group of not great realtors opposed to great realtors.
Yeah, because the people don't know better, right? It's like,
that's the issue.
You can't judge somebody, don't judge a book by its cover. You got to sit down and...
But that's the thing.
Yeah.
In this day and age, everyone judges the book by its cover. So now how do you make yourself known as, hey, read my story? You, however, I feel like mortgage brokers, people are ready to have a good story. Oh. Realtors, I think they're just going to get that clickbait cover and then that's it. So how do you navigate that?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think, today technology is changing, and these podcasts, I think, are a huge way for people just to get to know you a little bit. Yeah, just to see, what, do you connect with this person, personality, am I retaining what you're saying, I always try to be positive, like in every situation. Like, I always try to turn the negative into a positive. So, I mean, I think you just, you got to change with the times, right? Put yourself out there as much as you can. But I mean, and I know that, referral business is a huge part of what we do. And I love how the industry is really starting to collab, realtors to realtors, mortgage brokers to realtors, mortgage brokers to mortgage brokers. So I see a big change there, and I love how everybody's working together, because everybody seems to think that everybody hates each other.
And this wasn't a thing before. Mortgage brokers would never sit down with a realtor and vice versa.
There was a time when I got in the industry, just to elaborate or expand on that point, was where mortgage brokers were basically chasing realtors. And when I got in the industry, I'm like, but why? Why are we chasing? Realtors should be chasing us. Because without the financing, they don't have a deal. And I'm not trying to be make my head swell.
But to your point, is it's very hard to find a good mortgage agent. So, like yourself, it's not easy. And you were saying that there's not many. There is enough of them.
There's a lot. I was about to say. I'm like Stefano. Like
There's a lot of them.
Enough of good or enough of bad?
It's like we're all bad actors in the industry. At the end of the day, look. You see news articles like with these scams that are happening with old people, and there's mortgage brokers involved because they're going in. Like,
But now, are these licensed mortgage brokers?
Yes,
They
you
are.
have to be licensed. Like, in the end of the day, the one thing that I can say that as an industry person we've advocated for is a harder barrier to entry. The real estate industry did it where they take now a lot longer to get your license. Why are we not doing this with mortgage professionals? Why is it that someone can go write their course on a Friday, come out on Monday and start underwriting deals? You have no right to be able to do that. Like I think like unless you came from the banking background, like,
Yeah,
you know,
you have
where you
experience.
understand a mortgage, you understand what the implications are.
You should be shadowing somebody
Exactly.
for a year.
Join a team.
At least.
Like
Shadow that person and soak in as much information as you can. So this way, when you get that deal on your table, you know where to go. Because otherwise, like you said, you just come out of school. I'm working with you. You give me a deal. I'm like, okay, what would I do?
So think about this. We live in a world right now, yes, with information technology changing our mindsets, and we're able to learn at a rapid pace. I think it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because the more data we process, the more we hesitate to do things, or we're confused. Confusion sets in. I still get people that call me and they'll be like, oh, this and that I saw this and this. I'm like, yeah, that's wrong. Like, that's 100% wrong. Like we saw with the insured mortgages, they came out and say, oh, all in mortgages can now be renewed. I'm like, no, that's just clickbait. You have to know what they're doing, what the lenders are doing. We dedicate time to having those conversations with the lenders, understanding their products. But think about someone that comes out of the mortgage agent licensing course. Like, I'm a broker. Like, same thing, natural progression, not a principal broker, but a broker like yourself.
Yes.
When someone comes out of their licensing, like, oh, I'm going to use my cousin. He just got his license. I'm like, good luck. Have fun.
Yep.
Like, no, seriously, you know what? More power to you. He's got to learn. And I believe everyone's got to learn. So you can't take away the fact that, listen, there's green agents. They got to learn. But like you said, every deal that we ever did had to this day, any agent that joins our brokerage, every deal comes through us.
Yeah.
I want to know everything, because some clients do not know better. And this is what we see in the news. People that just get taken. It happens. These scams work because people don't know.
Yeah.
And an agent that comes out and says, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just go private. But that deal, like, how many times I get a client, I'm looking at this deal and I'm like, but why in the hell did you go private? Like, this could have been done through an equity lender or like a little finessing, like in the sense of, figuring out some more questions. Like, we could have done something with this deal with an intermediary bank, but they go private because why? Money.
Yeah.
Money.
They get the kickback.
They get the kickback. They can charge a fee, and this is why it's important to. I always say, get a second opinion, especially when it comes to finances, right? Like, get a second opinion. I worked in the bank. When you walk into that bank and you're dealing with that person under the umbrella of that bank, there's no other option. It's like walking into a Honda dealership and saying, hey, how's the Toyota?
Yeah.
What do you think he's going to say to you?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you don't want that. You want this.
Yeah. For
But if you walk into, like you mentioned, a used car lot, you're going to have a plethora of vehicles on the lot. You're going to listen to your client's wants and needs and say, nah, based on what you're saying, you're looking at something like this.
And so now, if people need to find out where your community is and where your contact information is, tell me.
Sam, where can they find you?
You can find me at Sam General Real Estate on Instagram.
And website?
So it's the www.samgenova.ca.
Thanks. And for all of our Financing Simplified viewers, you can always find us online, YouTube, and Instagram, and at In Touch Mortgages. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.